And we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mindful Blerd. It's your boy Goofy Wise.
Now, motivational speaker.
Yes, we are here to bring you some wild and wondrous takes. No, let me stop. We are here to bring you some awesome takes. We are talking about Severance today. I am your political radical, communist, Goofy Wise, and this is my boy, motivational speaker, who is
Spiritual weirdo.
kind of just kind of like a weirdo.
Yeah,
We're a spiritual weirdo, right?
yeah. So
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I feel like I got that right. I said our names twice, but fuck it, we here.
we here.
Yeah. Today we're talking about Severance, the wildly popular TV show. The modern day critique on capitalism and techno feudalism. Yeah, I'm super excited because this is one of those shows that that is really good. And like probably it's one of the best TV we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, we're gonna get David with the word of the week. The word of the week. What's the word, David?
The word of the week. All right. So the quote of this week that we're gonna go with is something that I like, which is when I let go of who I am, I become
Mm,
who I might be.
mm, mm,
Thoughts? Does
mm,
anything
mm.
resonate? How are we feeling about that? Where are we at?
When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Immediately, what resonates to me is just like obviously this thing of like attachment to of who we have to be or who we should be. You know what I mean? And the releasing of that expectation gives room for your true authentic self. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's what immediately rises to me. But what did that mean to you? What did that mean? What does that mean
Uh,
to you?
yeah.
And
No,
like
I
and
know.
where
I
you
just
are in life right now?
Well, I want to piggyback on what you said. I think
Yeah,
just letting go of your idea yourself, I think
yeah,
is something that you can do. I think for me, a lot of the time, I'll think about that like on a macrocosmic kind of view.
yeah.
But I think it also
What the
works
what the
on.
hell is my macrocosmic being?
Okay, so like so, I'll think about that a lot of time from like in the grand scheme of my life, like who I am
uh,
in relation to like my past and shit,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
all that. But I also think it's really useful on a microcosmic scale, on
yeah,
like
yeah,
a fucking day to day, moment to moment. Because I'll find myself like in a rut of something that I think that I got to do, or something, or some way that I think I have to be, and
yeah,
in that moment being like, you know what, I can let go of this shit. This is
yeah,
just
yeah,
stuff that I'm always doing.
yeah.
Is there anything in your life that you feel like has been like difficult to let go, like an idea about yourself?
Um, I guess for me, like what's coming up right now is just like the idea that I have to be everyone's like pillow. You know what I mean? Like I grew up in like
Mm,
a very much like an environment, that forced me to kind of be like a people pleaser. You know what I mean?
mhm.
I think that carried on throughout my life so much, and like I'm in a space now where it's like I like to say I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm like, fuck that. You know what I mean? I don't owe nobody shit. I don't have to be this petite motherfucking like just fit, not too loud, not too XYZ, you know what I mean? To make everybody else feel comfortable. If somebody says some fucked up shit, it's my job to just like, water off a duck's back, not a big deal.
Mhm.
Make them feel okay with that. And I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, fuck that. You know what I mean? Fuck
Yeah.
that. I don't want to do that anymore. It gets to a point where it's just like self-mutilation in a way. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like you're just eating away at yourself for the expense of others. You know what I mean? And it's like it's so bad that sometimes it's like it's just on autopilot. You know what I mean? In the way that trauma works. It's just like, oh, this is just how I act now. You know what I mean? And it's like it's constantly like beating up myself before I even give myself a chance to fight back and like just be like, we're not doing it, nigga. That shit you said, I got a problem with. You know what I'm saying? Let's
Yeah.
wake that shit up, nigga. And just being
Mhm.
like confrontational.
Oh yeah. I totally resonate with that. I literally had a very similar situation happen with
Really?
me. Yeah, like at work.
Yeah.
Because
It's
that
always at
realization.
work, nigga. Fuck that job, nigga.
No, no,
No, but
no.
go
This is
ahead.
good. This is good work. This is like my
Yeah.
favorite work. So, but like
Okay,
on
cool, cool,
set,
cool.
like so on sets, like in
Okay.
movie sets and TV and film, um, you know, as an actor, I think for a long time I really struggled at on sets because of that people pleasing like energy.
Yeah, yeah.
And trying to kind of be everything for everybody. Because if you're on a set, you know, if you're the actor,
Yeah.
if you're the talent, you know, you're getting touched by everybody. Pause. Joke.
No
Like
pause, nigga. Play. Fast forward, rewind.
play.
Fast forward, rewind. You know what I'm saying? Go back and forth in that. I'm living that uncomfortable, nigga. You ain't
It
gotta.
was
You know what I'm
just.
saying? You ain't
I
gotta.
promise it was just a joke. I do not have
Okay,
a
cool.
problem with
Because
that.
you know I'm about to give you a lecture. Nigga,
Oh
back in
no,
my
no, no,
day,
no,
you
no.
know.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm not a pause person. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
But I do, you know, you're touched by everybody on set, and like, you know, it's makeup, it's hair, it's everybody. It's the lighting person, somebody who puts your mark down, and so I, you know, would have a really tough time on set because I'm trying to like be everything for everybody and please all these people and do all this shit, and it
Yeah.
would take my attention away from the job I came to do,
Mm,
and also being like, um taking in everybody else's shit, because I know you can vibe with that.
yeah.
Like, you know, when you're a
Yeah.
sensitive person, you're just feeling everybody
Yeah.
else's expectations. Is like the thing about being on the set, especially being an actor, is like everything somebody tells you about you is the
Yeah.
most important thing to them.
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah. Yeah.
lighting's got, you got to stand here or we're gonna miss it. You gotta,
Yeah.
you know,
That's got to be like a fucking great exercise in fighting for yourself.
you know
You
what
know
I
what I
mean.
mean? Yeah. Yeah. Because you can get pulled in a thousand different ways. You know what I mean?
And I definitely was, because I
Yeah.
was like you said, I was like a people pleaser. So I'm just like, yeah, okay, what do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need? What do you need? And then like genuinely, you know, I guess most recently I felt for really one of the first times that I've been on that set in that
Yeah.
situation to be able to kind of just sit in my own power and be okay
Yeah.
with like doing what I can and then being cool with it and just be like, yeah, you know, that's not a fight I need to fight. I don't gotta
Yeah.
do all that. And they usually try to silo actors off, but you want to be
Yeah.
accommodating and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to be a burden. And also, you know, just the nature of the beast, I think,
Yeah.
can create a lot of what's the word? Like I think every actor has like a little bit of imposter syndrome, no matter like
Yeah.
at what level they get to. And
Yeah.
so you get there and you're like, I'm just happy to fucking work. I don't want to cause no problems. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
you know, you can do that that can be to the detriment of you actually doing your fucking job, which is something
Yeah.
that has taken me way too long to learn, but I feel a lot better about it now.
I mean, first of all, like fucking congrats. You know what I mean? Like, because that's a huge accomplishment for yourself. You know what I mean? Like standing up for yourself in that way and making sure that, like, you know, it's like, oh, this person needs this from me. This person needs this from me. Right? But what do I need from me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a powerful place to be, and it's like that deserves to be celebrated and
Same to
and
you, dog. Hell
commemorated.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, and that's good, bro. It's cool that we can we can relate to that in that way, as we are on our different paths in life, you know what I mean? But no, I think that's hella important, and I'm and that's something I'm always trying to do every day, and it's just like it sucks that it's like I'm in a position now where it's like I have to even think of that, but it's like it is what it is. Is all I can do is try my best to be the best version of myself and show off for myself in whatever way I can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay. Not to ruin this amazing bro moment right now. But
Whoa,
let's
miss
talk
me with
about
that Gen Z shit. Hold up, man.
oh,
I'm
you
too
gotta
old
come
for
back
that
with
shit.
this.
I'm
I
too
gotta
old
do
for that
this.
shit. Yeah,
I ain't
nah,
gonna lie,
nah.
my bones crinkled a little bit when I
Just
threw the heart up a
just
little. I was like,
see,
ooh,
that's
shit,
because
this shit.
you from the hood. You fucking throwing up gang signs and shit. Like, nah.
No, no, but since we talk about work, nigga, let's talk about Severance.
Oh yeah.
All right, season 2 just ended. Did you watch all season 1 and 2 back to back, or did you watch it when it initially came out?
I think I was late to season 1, but I
Yeah.
caught up before season 2 started, and then I
Okay,
started
sweet.
season 2.
So
Yeah.
you didn't have to wait the full 3 years.
No, funny story. I didn't watch it because I got like close enough to be angry about it. Like I tested what's called a test for that show.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I tested for it. And so
What does that mean?
like,
Tested for it? Like you were going to be on the show?
yeah, like I auditioned, like you
That's
audition, you get a
so
callback,
cool.
and then they test you to see if you're gonna be like good for a role on it. And
That's
like,
so cool. You could have been fucking Irving or Milkcheck or some shit. Do you know what
yeah,
position you were gunning for?
yeah, I know. I don't want to talk about it. Look,
Oh,
all I
okay,
know,
okay.
all I know is the person who got the job was the person who, like, the saying is
Yeah,
acting is like that was that person's job.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
when I saw him do the thing, it was like, yo, like that, I couldn't do that. Like
yeah, yeah,
I didn't understand it in the way that they did, and it was
yeah, yeah,
definitely that person's job. but
I fuck with
because
that.
of that, like because of getting that close, it took me a
Yeah.
minute to turn that show on. I was like,
Yeah,
nah, let me
yeah,
just.
yeah.
And then it
I ain't
got
gonna
all
lie,
the,
nigga. I should have been me.
you know what
No,
I'm saying? I was
no,
like,
yeah.
and then it was lit too. And niggas was getting innies. I'm like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that. I get that 1000%. I mean, I kind of want to know now, but I feel like NDAs or for your
Oh no,
own
I
personal
don't mind.
reason.
I don't mind saying it was. Oh my god, I forgot his name. Dylan. Is that
Oh, Dylan
Yeah,
G.
yeah,
Oh, that would have been tight. I fuck with
yeah,
Dylan G though. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think
Like
it
I
was
didn't get the
yeah,
humor like he did. He got like I
yeah,
was just I didn't. I just didn't get it. And
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
also, it's just not my job because it was definitely his. Because I watched him like the second
yeah.
I turned the bitch on, I was like, yeah, dog, you killed that shit. Like
yeah,
he's perfect.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just that's
yeah.
just his job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt like he was definitely in that role. Like I can't. It's hard for me to see him not in that role.
You know what I'm saying?
Mouth open, glasses tilted. You know what
You know,
I'm
he's like
saying? Yeah, he was in
like
his. Yeah, he was in his
everything
duffy.
about him is perfect. Like I'm like, yo, when we talk about casting, the casting of that
Yeah,
show is fucking goated
I think
out
so
the gate.
too. Yeah, yeah. I think the characters are like super good. You know what I mean? But that being said, I also like I thankfully I watched it and then I watched the first season, me and my girlfriend, we binged it, and then the next week next 2 weeks the season 2 started coming out, so we were like, yes, I didn't have to wait the 3 years. Rest in peace to my niggas who had to wait the full 3 years
It was
after
3
watching season
years.
one.
I know it was that
Yeah,
long.
yeah, yeah. And it's like it's such a cool concept, you know what I mean? Like the idea that it's like it's so Black Mirror-esque. It's like the idea that you go to work and like it's a completely different, person. This like capitalism exploitation has got so much further. It's like, nah, nigga, we gonna take a part, we gonna take a piece of you, carve that out for us, and that's us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I'm a big sci-fi guys, and I'm a big capitalism hater. So like
Oh
this show
yeah.
was like right up my alley, bro. So I was super excited about that. Yeah,
Yo, just real quick,
yeah,
sorry, editor. It does like for the whole thing, right? Today, it kind of looks
yeah.
like you're not looking at me, like your eyes are like you're kind of looking down.
What about now?
I mean, yeah, now it's not, but like for most of
Yeah.
it, like it kind of looks like you're kind of like this for a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of it. So
Sorry, my fault, my fault. Yeah, I have you on my other screen so I can get some light. So it's like I need to make sure that I'm focusing here. I appreciate that
got
note though. Yeah, yeah. Okay, but yeah, yeah. So let's talk about Severance. Where do you want to start? David, you want to kick us off a little bit?
Yeah, man. I had a tough. I genuinely out the gate
Yeah,
really had a great time. I usually have some kind of like weird esoteric take about a show
yeah,
because
yeah,
I genuinely kind of my experience is like every story is just one story.
yeah,
So a lot of the time when I'm watching a show, that story just kind of jumps out at me. And
yeah.
when I was watching Severance, it did not because
Mm,
I was so enthralled in the show,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
literally wasn't until even like past the finale, I was like, I don't even know like where I would go with this.
Season 1 or season 2?
Both of them, season two finale.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Like even after the season two finale, I was like, I don't fucking know. Like, this shit is wild. And it wasn't until I was watching a video and somebody said the innies are the color blue, are usually dressed in the color blue, and the outies are in
yeah.
red. And
Which is a fire. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like, wait. So I guess my first thought was the innies and the outies for me very much represent our sort of egoic self, which is like our internal psychological self,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
our sort of outie, which is our it's kind of weird, our
Like how we present to
non-egoic.
the world. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like how we present to the world.
yeah, like
Yeah.
the sort of real life sort of experiential state of
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to close that door.
Algae. And like our real life sort of experiential kind of state of being. And so I think it's something I thought was really telling about the whole thing is
Yeah.
because right now we have this whole argument about like whether or not the innies are real people and whether or
Yeah.
not they
Yeah.
should have rights and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so the first thing that like really came to my mind was like, oh, our innies very much are our ego,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
our internal psychological sense of self.
Yeah.
And like my facts for this
Yeah.
is um you know, we create our egos in order to kind of make our way through the world, right? To like
Yeah.
to create a sense of self and separation from everything.
Yeah.
And that's all good. Like that's lit. That's normal.
Yeah.
But the problem shows up when we become over-identified with those egos. When we become over-identified with our, like the quote from earlier was, with our ideas of ourselves, being our past, our future, our thoughts, our emotions. And so when we become over-identified by those things, it's like we're in a prison of like our own sort of this capitalistic hellscape, materialistic hellscape within our own minds. And it feels like it feels like the very little freedoms that you get are like, like you think you're really doing it. And so for me, Severance, the sort of moment when we open up on Severance is your spiritual awakening, with Heliar on that thing being like, waking up. It's your awakening to like, hold up, this is some bullshit. Like I've been that, that awareness where you go, wait, I've been in my head my entire fucking life. And I've never actually been present for my own life. And so we pop out of that and it's like, yo, you're waking up essentially, like not as an outie, but like it's the awareness that, whoa, hold up, something's wrong here. And so I think a lot of the time our innies, or rather what our innies are our sort of, are us when we're being kind of controlled by our ego, which is in a state of reactivity to the rat race. It's literally a very small, closed situation. And then our outies are us coming out of this like fucking crazy. But it's interesting because it's like the complicated aspect of it, I guess, is like the quote I was trying to do for a video I made was, your innies are running the show. Like the innies are already running the show. I can't remember the creator's name, but he had a really dope video where he was saying that like he thinks that what's happening is that they are trying to make the innies the outies, like make the innies the thing so that they can have full control all the time. That totally fucking resonates, because like that's what happens with us in society, is like when our innies are in control, capitalism, commerce, fucking all the shit is we are in a state of reactivity to it. It's like our innies are running the show. So the show is essentially your innie, like is you waking up to the fact that your ego has been running the show in relation to everything. And Lumon is fucking everywhere. Like Lumon is the whole system. It's, every corporation. It's in your medical system. Like just how Lumon is everywhere in the show. Like Lumon out here for us is this sort of egoic hellscape, because so much of where we get like capitalism, our medical system, how we deal with our food system, our education system, all kind of stems from this sort of egoic idea of separation, being this separate, hierarchical, top of the food chain bullshit. And so everything mirrors that. So it's literally like we have Lumon all around us constantly, and we are literally the innies just moving around and trying to get out of that situation, trying to live our lives and have freedom. But also there needs to be an integration of like waking up into like, yo, this isn't it. There's something more than this shit.
Almost like the two halves of oneself. You know what I mean? And like, and that really resonates with me, because like this whole idea of like, can you ever even be truly separated? You know what I mean?
Right.
Can you ever separate yourself? And like, there's like a medical term for like separation. It's called compartmentalization. You know what I mean? That people try to do, like, oh, and Black people do it at work in a sense of like, oh, hey, I'm this is maybe a little different. This is like code switching. I'm like, hey, I'm at work. I'm this person. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little different. You know what I'm saying? But like this idea of separation in a sense of like, there are two different people. You know what I mean? And like I said, Black people have been kind of doing this for quite a long time already. But also like this almost like myth of separation as if you could actually ever truly separate yourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like the innies are the outies and the outies are the innies. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like they are like they are kind of essentially like the same person, but just like without all the extra baggage, I guess. You know what I mean? Or maybe with more baggage from your perspective. Because when I hear egoic self, I think like maybe I'm like, I'm not sure, because like when I interpreted it from the show, I'm like, are the innies the truer version of themselves? You know what I mean? Without all the extra baggage, you know. And to you, is that them being more egoic? What do you think?
Okay, so I guess when I say the innies,
Yeah.
I would, because when I say ego, I just mean a
Yeah.
sort of limited, separate identity. Like,
Mm.
so
Okay. So essentially, what an innie is. Yeah, yeah.
right, like,
Yeah.
and so, but when I think about like, so the
Got you
outies,
on your toes, nigga, huh? No, I'm
no,
just
no, no,
kidding.
no, no. So the outies, I think, okay, so much of what our outies are
Yeah.
experiencing is the whole of the experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we are like out, when we are present in our lives, when we
Yeah.
aren't in our heads constantly, we have to deal with the sort of unpleasant like fullness of life. I can't
Yeah.
like I can't control you, right? If we're in a
Yeah.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like community, right? If we're in community, I can't control that person over there, and you are an unknown quantity. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're gonna do. Also, I can't control life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
horrifying. And so you see, when we are in the sort of space of being our outies, being present, being with life
Yeah.
as it is, and not in our head in that separate like safe space,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're having to deal with the chaos by saying yes to it, which
Uh-huh.
is like why we created the ego, to create a
Yeah.
space so we can have that separation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
deal with, I don't want to
Yeah.
deal with that pain. I don't want to deal with this
Yeah.
thing. I don't want to, you know what I'm
Woo!
saying?
No, that just wrapped it all up for me, because it's like, you know, for instance, Mark S went to become an innie because he wanted to escape the feelings of being, you know, mourning the death of his wife. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So he wanted to control those emotions, to escape ultimately, by separating himself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think what this show Severance shows us, you know, this idea of separation, this idea of, you know, compartmentalization, you know what I mean, which is what, you know, most people try to do, you know, to escape the problems of the world, to in effort to control, you know what I mean, to mitigate the damage, right? Is that
Mhm.
there is no true compartmentalization. Like, there's no escaping yourself, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And in the effort to control yourself in this way, it only leads to more trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These niggas are like, the innies are going through this shit, bro. They are getting more traumatized, bro. They're experiencing inside of Lumon, bro, is an inherently traumatizing experience, bro.
Mhm.
Because ultimately they can't escape who they are on the outside. Because again, there is no separation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what that compartmentalization does, you know, which Severance is like the most extreme version of compartmentalization. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's literally, you have a chip in your brain to separate the, you know, the two selves. But it's like,
Oh no,
even
I kind of get
even
it.
even that.
I
Hey,
mean,
go ahead, give me a little bit of an epic to
just
echo. You know what I'm saying?
maybe no.
But no, it's extremely oppressive to yourself, though.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you know what I mean. But I mean, it sounds nice, like, you know what I mean. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying. I
Mhm.
don't want no pain, because that's ultimately Lumon's goal, is to eliminate pain. They can have the perfect worker. You know what I'm saying? The whole Cold Harbor shit. You know what I mean? You got motherfucking Gemma downstairs doing all the shit that she hates, because they're trying to make a chip that you can escape pain. But what the show shows us is ultimately is that, like, you know, trauma transcends severance, and also
Mm.
love transcends severance. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. What did you say? Fuck. What did you say? Oh, the separation. I think that
Yeah.
really just reminded me of like the ego's job is to separate. That's what it's
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
It's to cut everything into pieces. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
literally, it's severance is literally the final boss of your ego. It's literally
Yeah.
when you see everything in our society, though, how we live now, so much of it is literally, I mean, our communities are separate. We're
Yeah.
all individualistic and separate. Our
Yeah.
monetary system, it creates this sort of, it cuts us away from everything. And yeah, I do think Severance is the proper final boss. And what you reminded me of, though, and I think we may jump on to something else we're going to talk about in the next
Yeah. Yeah.
episode, but fuck it. It really, there's one of the theories is that people think that severance is to get rid of emotion, be able to like sever the severed person from the emotions, and like it makes me it reminds me of the fact that the natural thing for somebody to do who's overly identified with their ego, which is just your thoughts / emotions and sensations, whatever.
Yeah.
Someone who's over identified with that, the final boss is always going to be like the destruction of empathy. I don't want to feel anything, because when you're so identified with your emotions, when you have a shitty emotion, you don't want to let go of that. Like you don't want to feel that. So I just want to compartmentalize and put that away. So it's like it's an inevitability. So when we get like fucking like Elon getting on Joe Rogan talking about like empathy is the blah 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 blah, and I'm just like, it's the inevitability of that egoic like over identification.
Yeah, and I think it's you know, from the terms of like Elon and like the right wing shift of like this idea of killing empathy, it's purposeful. You know what I mean? Because it allows you know, like in the show, for you know, capitalists to hold control over people. You know what I mean? And when we don't care about one another, when we're divided, we don't care about ourselves, we don't care about other people. It's easier to control us because we're not fighting for us, essentially. You know what I mean? Kind of how we talked about in the beginning, like what do I need? What do I need? What do you need? What do you need? But also, what do I need? You know what I mean? And part of that is human connection and caring for one another. Because I think it was Charles Darwin, and you know, obviously problematic person, but he even noted like the survival of what allowed humans to survive better than any other animal was empathy. You know what I mean? It was our collective empathy for one another that allowed us to navigate, you know, the rigors of like, you know, the animal world. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we cared about one another, because we could come together, feed each other, do this X, Y, and Z in this way. That's ultimately what makes us human. So like, again, trying to deny what makes us human is like, is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Also, fuck Elon and fuck all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God. But I was just thinking to myself, bro, this is like the perfect show for us to talk about, because I feel like it delves so much into both of our worlds in a sense. You know what I mean?
I was
like,
about to ask you, bro, because I was like, because I know you fucking, this is exactly correct for you.
but also you too. Like, it's like in the egoic self and like in seeking control. You know what I mean? I think it's like it's a beautiful. I'm so glad that we're here to talk about this from this angle. You know what I mean? But yeah, because like obviously it's a critique on capitalism. You know what I mean? It's a critique on exploitation. You know what I mean? What happens when, you know, continuing power is consolidated in the few rather than the many. You know what I mean? Like you get shit like this. You know what I'm saying? You get shit like this, and it's like the whole debate about what if innies are okay is also like this political, you know, question for the times inside of Severance. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when Helena, you know, got free, you know, and she was able to like finally start talking her shit, you know, at the thing, at the ballroom dinner when they had the overtime contingency, like this was able to be like brought up and say like, hey, we're actually being treated horribly. And she got her ass tackled off the stream because like we can't affect the profits of what it means to be an innie. You know, we have to be able to sell this product ultimately. You know what I mean? So that means, you know, pushing down the suffering that is happening. You know what I mean? Really quickly, I wanted to provide a definition for compartmentalization, because I feel like we both said it, and I just wanted to make sure that, you know, like we have a understanding with the viewers. Compartmentalization is a psychological defense mechanism where individuals separate conflicting thoughts, emotion, or experiences into distinct mental categories to avoid the discomfort of the contradiction or cognitive dissonance. You know, this process allows for collecting ideas to coexist without direct interaction. You feel me? Conflict. Yes, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like that's ultimately what is happening here as you know, as Severance is like the science fiction ultimate way of compartmentalization. And what we're seeing is like that doesn't work. It doesn't work, bro. And you're only traumatizing yourself and others around you as you continue to do that. And what I see when I hear compartmentalization, I think about this talk of empathy that David just said. You know what I mean? Like when we try to like, you know, whether it's at work or in the political realm, we see something horrible happening across the world. Like look at Palestine right now, and people try to say like, "Oh, this is not about me." You know, this is not. I am just gonna, you know, compartmentalize not look at this, what's happening over there, only focus about what's happening here. I can't think about that. You know what I mean? It's not important, or whatever the fuck, right? For political reasons, people decide to ignore the emotions that are inconvenient. And I think what that does to you is ultimately it ignores your own humanity. You know what I mean? You're so much more willing to dismiss, your own humanity when you're able to dismiss the humanity of others and the suffering of others. You know what I mean? And that's what ultimately, compartmentalization is a lie. You know what I mean? And I
Do
see
you
like,
feel, do you feel like growing up you were like pressured to compartmentalize, or was it just like a reaction for you? Like I don't know.
I don't know. That's a really fucking good question. Because like, when did it first? I mean, I feel like this society kind of like forces you to do it in a way, just because like we don't have solutions to the shit. You know what I mean? Under capitalism, we can't deal in solutions. We can only deal in problems. You know what I mean? And contradictions. As a Marxist would say. You know what I mean? Like there's like, for instance, like what is racism? Like how do we solve racism? What is the first step to solve a racism? Well, it's through Marxism we understand that like racism is propagated by capitalism to maintain capitalism. To continue the separation of people, in order, because if we come together, it's going to be a problem. So like, although liberals might get on the news and be like, hey, we love representation, good, representation, great. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, it's like it'll never be fixed, because the solution is a new system that is not capitalism, because capitalism manufactures racism, bro. Just like it manufactures sexism to continue to divide us. So in that way, like we are forced to be in this compartmentalized state where we have to like, otherwise you're just angry all the time. Well, which is kind of where I'm at right now. As a young kid, I couldn't deal with those emotions, and some could argue that I can't deal with them now very well. You know what I mean? But like you're just constantly enraged. I think it's James Baldwin who says like to be an aware person is like to be constantly enraged by everything. You know what I mean? Because now all these emotions are happening, and I don't think that people are able to have the emotional tools to be able to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? So that they are, if they're not forced, they're kind of forced. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was gonna be my second question. Was like,
do
you think it's like I know so many of us just don't feel like we were given the tools for that growing up. I know I think we're feeling the like when we talk about like the male loneliness epidemic, like we're feeling the brunt of that. I think all the red pill shit is literally a direct response to us not having an ability to deal with our emotions and to want to compartmentalize, or constantly reflexively compartmentalizing.
Yep. And offer scapegoats, which the right does very well. You know what I mean? Oh, women bad. That's why men not happy. Women bad. You know what I mean? Like happens all the time.
Yeah. Facts.
Yeah. I think that's a super important conversation. You know what I mean? Because like I think about like Mark, and in his quest for like Gemma or whatever. Like you can he is clearly like, I remember that scene where they were like, in the I forgot what it was called. It was like with Miss Casey or Genma was acting out, basically telling people their secrets of their innies or whatever. Because the innies are ultimately longing for that. You know what I mean? They're longing like, who is my outie? What is he like? Who am I? You know what I mean? The same way that, that we kind of do it in a different way. You know what I'm saying? But it's like there's trauma that comes for that. You know what I mean? And where there's trauma, there's suffering. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. That's I think so much of us also like our innies really want. I think we desperately crave connection.
Yeah, we do.
Desperately, like, and you see that with like all the innies. They all are like in some way trying to find some connection because they're all severed. They're all cut off, and
they're basically new people. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they don't have either. They're like children in a way. Like, and we're almost to see like not to cut you off. I'm sorry, but we're almost seeing like their baser human instincts. And how easy it is to for people to be susceptible to like programming. You know what I mean? Like how everybody in the office acts like for instance, Irving G in season 1, right? He acts like the fucking the handbook for Lumon is like the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's offering me guidance. This is it's like a religion to him almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yo, you just made me think like because we create the ego in childhood. That's the job, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have to do that. And so it's literally so many of us end up being like adult children because we don't have
Yeah.
the tools to go beyond with identifying with
Mm.
our limited sense of self.
Yeah.
And part of that, like you just said,
Yeah.
was fucking with Irvin, is your ego is your religion, which is
Yeah.
why when people talk about like
Yeah.
you know the church and all the shitty things they're doing and whatever, I
Yeah.
think part of a mistake that we
Yeah.
make is to miss the forest for the trees. Like the church, and the Christian church specifically, is in horrible things, right? Religion has
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
some really shitty things,
Without a doubt.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's mad. We know. But I think it can be really useful to recognize that, like, at the top of that is
Yeah.
the childish, egoic idea of everything, which is
Yeah.
why when people leave the church and they go on
Yeah.
like their spiritual journey or
Yeah.
whatever, they do the same shit. Like all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
problems in the church are problems in the New Age community. All the problems in
Yeah.
the New Age community are the same problems in the manosphere alt-right community. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
the one ring to rule them all is this idea that you're separate from something, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
your sense of self, who you think you are, is absolutely the only thing. Like it's just the religion in your mind.
Yeah.
And it does create a sort of religious zealotism.
Yeah.
That's not a word, but like a zealot aspect
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. Hey,
That we
fuck it.
all
We can make words up, nigga. We got our own podcast. This is how it works, nigga. You can just get. I just see too many motherfuckers come over here and just say whatever. If you want zealotism to be a word, nigga, it's a word, nigga.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, bro. Go ahead,
yeah,
bro.
like you know what I'm saying. Like I don't know. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
do think
fuck with that.
there's zealotry to it.
Yeah. I fuck with that idea a lot. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, and I feel like this is again. I hate to glaze our own podcast, but this is like so cool because it's like the innies themselves, right? Like, and as you were describing, like it's all about trying to feel power. As a young kid, we create the ego in order to have some kind of power. You know what I mean? Because we don't have power at this time, and in some regards, the innies who are not kids for real, they're adults. You know what I mean? They have power, but they also don't. You know what I mean? They have more power than a child. You know what I mean? Which is why ultimately what leads them to to having this kind of attempt at revolution in season 1, right? Like Irvin's like, let's burn this motherfucker to the ground. You know what I mean? I remember that scene. You know what I mean? Because it's like, because they're not kids. They are infantile in certain ways. You know what I mean? And Lumon is ultimately like over them. You know what I mean? But they have other solutions. So it's almost like showing you what happens when you give that that childish self the power of like being an adult, being of a conscious a level of processing to be able to articulate yourself and not necessarily having parents. You know what I mean? And like this is what we're going to fight for. You know what I mean? When things hurt us, we're not just going to try to separate them. We're going to try to change things for the better. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times when we're kids, the ego forms is like, I can't change nothing. I can't change nothing. I can't change nothing. I just have to, create this atmosphere for myself where I can control, you know what I mean? Which ends up, obviously hurting yourself, And I had this opinion. I can't take full credit for this because my boy Destructo Jugo, obviously, he lighted this up, shout out to him. But the innies in themselves, like each individual innie is like, each of them is just showing you how different people become radicalized in a system that is ultimately like unfair to them. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So like Irving G, he becomes initially radicalized after he suffers great heartbreak. You know what I mean? The loss of love. You know what I mean? They took birth from him. You know what I mean? So he's like, nah, we're gonna burn this motherfucker down. This pain happening, ego is triggered. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna try to take over. I'm gonna have to do something else. You know what I'm saying? Mark S is kind of like that, that kind of guy in the middle who doesn't really care too much about work. And you see that he is radicalized by what's that, y'all? Y'all gonna hate me for this. Reading, motherfucker. It's the you are that ultimately radicalized him and Dylan, mind you, because Dylan's that person who is like, he's only in it for the reward. He's that worker that go ahead.
The book.
Yeah, the book. The you are. Yes.
Shit. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say it's just kind of ironic because communists and socialists are always online telling people, hey, nigga, read. Because not only is it important, to have the information that, that allows you to liberate yourself. But it is also, like as James Baldwin himself is like, when you read, you immediately become aware that you are not alone in your problems. You know what I mean? The problems that you have been documented, people been going through for generations. You know what I mean? And you start to begin to connect all the dots, and this gives you power because it makes you sure of yourself and understanding like, okay, I understand where this is going. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So like Dylan and Mark kind of had that realization by reading that book, because Dylan's like that guy that's like, oh, I have rewards. I care about waffle parties. I want to get the rewards of this system. You know what I mean? But ultimately, it's reading, connecting to other people and ideas bigger than themselves that ultimately, lights the flame in them to want to fight against the system. And Helena, my dear Helena, my nigga Helena, bro. Helena is that person who was born in the system and from the very jump rejects it. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, from the very moment she was in this, she's questioning why. Why is this? Why is this? Why is this? Goes to Mark and Mark S is head. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck this. I'm out of here. I'm trying to escape. I'm trying to run. You know what I mean? And you see throughout the season, she's always with the shits. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, she's the kind of person that is like not going to allow, this kind of, treatment to happen. So the system in itself radicalized her from the very jump. You know what I'm saying? And it just shows you like the pantheon of different ways that people can be radicalized to want to change the system. And when I say the word radicalized, is like, obviously there's a political element to that, but it's also like this idea that I can change the world around me. You know what I mean? I can create a better system in this world where Lumon is oppressing them, and obviously kind of in a way that their own Audis are oppressing them, right? As they are exporting that labor to them, it's like, I must fight back. You know what I mean?
Which one are you? What
radical? Oh, that's a great question, chat. Hey, if you're you're in the comment section right now, you're listening to this, please let us know which one are you. This is hard. Because I'd be lying to you if I told you I was Helly. As much as I'm
not Helly. My wife is a Helly. I'm so jealous. She talks about this shit all the time. I'm like, because like I grew up in the church, and like I'm like, yo, so would you ever go to church? And she's like, nah, I walked in that bitch, and I was like, fuck this. I was like, that was not me. I am a joiner, so I don't know.
I think if I had to pick, it would probably be Irving G, because I think it was the loss of love. You know what I mean? The heartbreak at an early age that I realized that the system was inherently not equipped to meet my needs or the needs of the people around me. Obviously growing up, that first heartbreak was probably the heartbreak of my mom. You know what I mean? Not to get too like, I got mommy issues, but like, it's real shit. You know what I mean? Like, I saw what this world has done to my mom, you know what I mean, over the years. And obviously, subsequently, all the people that I love. But I think that first heartbreak, you know what I mean, was just like, this is so unfair. You know what I mean? I'm watching my mom being exploited, working 2-3 jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like, all this kind of stuff. It kind of immediately put in, a single mother trying to take care of 3 kids. You know what I mean? It immediately put in perspective for me, like, oh, this is crazy. But also on the flip side, my mom was also very abusive. You know what I mean? So there's like this level of abuse that I think also kind of that all the innies kind of experienced to an extent. You know what I mean? That also aided in my radicalization, or I want to fight for a system that's fair. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if you ever lived with a narcissist, but that is the definition of not fair dealing with them. You know what I'm saying? So I think Irving probably rings the most bells. But what about you?
Ooh, you know what? Like, I was gonna go with Dylan, but I'm not like, I read on the after. I read after I was already kind of radicalized. So I think I'm probably going with you. Probably Irving, man. Like, and also just having sort of, I relate to him, that religious vibe too, because I was very much like a joiner.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I think also people who are really like in traumatic situations, the church, people, abusive houses. I think you squeeze a little tighter to religions, to safety. And so when those things are ripped out from under you, because they always will, because they're flimsy as shit, that usually catapults you dramatically and radicalizes you. And I think I agree. Probably Irvin G as well.
Yeah, you feel like you have a lot of religious trauma?
You know what? I didn't until recently.
Oh, really? What happened,
well,
huh?
I think I did. I did theoretically, and I never dealt with it. Which I'm not even trying to like really get into, but I definitely,
no worries.
it's definitely recently that I'm like, it's not even
like you're almost becoming aware of it now. You know what I mean?
just
But like it
more
happened when
fully
you're
aware of it. Like I knew everything was weird, but like I'm on the side of TikTok where people like this girl's like reading these Reddit stories of like weird shit that happened in the church, and I was just having a conversation with my homegirl, and I was like, yo, like some weird shit happened. It was fucking weird, and like because I had it on both sides. Like I went to like Southern Baptist church, and like I went to a white Christian school, and so I was around like Southern like whites.
You was in a Bible belt.
You know what I'm saying? Like I saw, like I got
into the thick of it, into the thick of it,
bro.
Like, nigga,
you do not have a perspective on those motherfuckers until you see it up close.
Like,
like
sure.
Y'all don't know how intense this is, which is why like I think a lot of times during the election I was like, yo, y'all don't like this is a cult. The things that you're saying to people they're not hearing, and I just remember being in that and being like, yo, but like now I do think I'm unpacking that a bit more. But I do think a lot of my experience now was being jettisoned out of that because it was so traumatic. It was
and I'll respect your wishes and not pry on that a little, getting into much of it too much.
I just think it's its own fucking episode. Like it's a whole
fair enough. Well, I will get into that then. Let's get it. But yeah, I think that and this is like in terms of Mark S and Dylan G, like them reading the you are, helping them become radicalized. And I think that even though I was kind of like radicalized earlier, you know what I mean? I do think that like reading really helped. You know what I mean? Reading really helped me contextualize, the world around us. You know what I mean? I used to wonder why there were so many problems in the world and nobody was trying to fix them. And I used to think that, maybe it's because, we just haven't really thought about it. You know what I mean? We haven't really thought it. And then I read and it's like, no, we've been thinking about it. And we've also been fighting for it. And we've also been getting, completely dismantled and destroyed by the system for fighting about it. You know what I mean? Past revolutions have been not only stifled throughout the world. CIA has been, big on doing that, but also at home domestically. Black Panther movement, Fred Hampton, all these people, rest in peace. All these revolutionaries were going up against the system and they were getting destroyed. People were getting disappeared in the night. You know what I mean? So it's like once you are able to read it, it can contextualize that. And that's just my shameless plug for, as a communist, just hey, motherfucker, reading ain't bad. And you ain't got to get it from reading. But it's like, as long as you are in touch with revolutionary education, because it is so much more different than what we're used to seeing. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, all education these days is pretty revolutionary. Like that's wild. You just made me think about like how reading gave
how so?
What do you mean?
Like you said, all education is revolutionary.
Because I don't think we're educated anymore. Like our education system isn't very good. Like we got to keep that like a full stack. And like it's literally to piggyback on like that and to add to what I was about to say is like, I think the ego, it's what it really is an idea of something that points to something in the real world, right? So your inner idea of something, my idea of drinking water points to the experience of drinking water, right? The finger pointing at the moon isn't the moon, right? My idea of what something isn't what it actually is, which is to say like my experience of having sex isn't the same as thinking about having sex. And so but something that happens a lot of the time is like when we are so sort of egoically identified with our thoughts and our own bullshit is that we think that our thoughts are reality. When you think your thought is a reality, you don't look outside of yourself to get any sort of experience or context. Something you'll see like with Ben Shapiro, is his favorite fucking phrase is like, experience is proven to like not matter nearly as much as empirical data, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, no, like your mind is not true. It's real, but it's not true. The thing that you think in your mind is just like an idea that points to something. And so in that same regard, when we begin to educate ourselves, when
Yeah.
we read, when we get more context, it's literally freeing the mind from its sort of rigid idea of something. Like
100%.
it's
Yeah.
freeing the
100%.
innie. It's letting like your innie self, the more shit that it gets from like outside of itself adds
Yeah.
to that context so that you can leap from that
Yeah.
like inner identification into the real life experience. And
Yeah.
like books help with that so fucking much.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's super important. Yeah. From so many different perspectives. You know what I mean? Like I think you just hit the nail on the head. So I ain't got enough to say about that. I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, that was exactly where I was going with that. Yeah. 100%. You know? Yeah, for
I had a
sure.
question about revolution though.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because like one of my favorite Matrix movies is the second Matrix movie
Uh-huh.
when the architect in it is like he tells Neo, "Yo, we plan for this revolution.
Yeah, yeah,
Like we plan for this shit. Like
yeah. Yeah,
this is just what happens. So
yeah. Yeah,
you're still a hamster on the wheel." I was
yeah.
wondering your thoughts on the idea that maybe like is the revolution fake in Severance? Are is the revolution built in
Ooh.
to the is it like a contingency to like know that they're gonna like act this way? Like, what do you think?
That's a pretty profound thought. You know what I mean? Because like as we leave season 2, we're on the cusp of said revolution. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Milchek was behind the gate. Oh, now C&M is all out here. You know, they got all the numbers. You see Dylan up front, like the general man. Like, hey, we're not dealing with your shit no more. Was this planned by Lumon? You know what I mean? Is this just a necessary outlet? You know what I mean? In the same way that like, you know, we have like these kind of like potentially revolutionary moments in the outside world that ultimately don't really turn into much. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think there is an effort in real life to kind of like, you know, create or not create, but like to allow for a certain amount of, you know, revolutionary energy to be released. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that way that it doesn't turn into actual revolution. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think like it was a comrade George Jackson, I think, talks about this. You know, and he basically says that, you know, the system will allow for pressure valves of pressure to be released, so that potentially revolutionary energy does not turn into actual revolution. And it can just die off. You know what I mean? It's like pressure valves. You let a little pressure out, and they say democracy is the perfect like democracy is the representative democracy under capitalism. You know what I mean? Which is not true democracy, right? Democracy
Yeah.
for the rich. It's not for us. You know what I mean? Is the perfect system for this because it gives us the illusion that we are,
The
you know,
illusion
kind
of
of free, and then we kind of like, you know, we have these revolutionary, you know, potentially revolutionary moments, Black Lives Matter, that, you know, like anything, Wall Street, what is it, Occupy Wall Street, you know what I mean? All these different movements that have, you know, are a culmination of pressure within the system that end up just kind of subsiding after a couple of years. You know what I mean? And if not, if it was a like a fascist, like full on fascist authoritarian government, like 100%, then like people would be more willing to like continue to fight for actual revolution. But since we have those little outlets, you know, it kind of staves it off. So like to the question in at hand is like, is Lumen you know, allowing this? I mean, I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know. You know what I mean? I guess that we're gonna find out on season 3. But I do feel like, I don't know, Lumen is just like, it's like, you know, it's somehow all powerful, but also somehow, you know, Innie was able to go downstairs to the second floor, you know, with one, you know, not even a gun, bro, like a staple machine, and able to like completely like free Gemma, which is their prized product at this point in time, right? Quote unquote eliminating pain from the worker, right? I think that ultimately, like, no, I would say that no. You know what I mean? They're not ultimately in control. You know what I mean? As much as they think they are. And I think what they're in store for season 2 is, you know, the revolution of innies. You know what I mean? And how that is dismantled is yet to be seen. You know what I mean? Because where there's a revolution, there is always counter revolutionary action, trying to stave it off, trying to subside it. You know, and I think the end of season 1 was kind of like their attempt at revolution, trying to let some pressure down. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
ultimately, it didn't work, and it's like now it's back up again. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen, though. Yeah.
Yo, would you say that I already know the answer, but would you say
Yeah.
that like Democrats are the pressure release for Republican fascism? Like it's just
Oh, 1000%.
same
Yeah, yeah.
bullshit. Like
Yeah, I
it's just
mean,
like, hey.
yeah, yeah. They kind of offer this a facade of progress. You know what I mean? Which is like, we'll take the the shallow bits of progress. We'll give you a little black person here, a little woman here. You know what I mean? But now
Yeah.
ultimately, like again, the solution to all these problems is ending capitalism, because there is no capitalism that is not gendered. There is no capitalism that is not racist. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Democrats are fighting to preserve capitalism, and in the efforts they are also fighting to preserve racism and sexism, but they're just putting a nice little bow on it and saying like, we're not as bad as those guys. You know what I mean? Look at us.
Yeah.
We're for the rainbows. We're for the cool stuff. And
Got
it's like,
the pink
and
shirts at the goddamn State of the Union.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the pink
yo, but
shirts.
like
Oh my God, don't
I
remind me
was
of the pink
hot.
shirts. Yeah,
I
yeah.
was hot
And the
when he did
Kuta
that shit.
Kente cloth where they took a knee. Like, it's so performative. It's so fake. And I think what we're seeing right now is working class people are like saying like, man, we don't want either of these, really. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think
So yeah,
I think my biggest a question, and maybe this is off
yeah.
topic, but for you is like, what do you think is our transitional space for that?
Or
Like
what? Like
from
outside
like
a world outside
from
of capitalism?
from capitalism just to whatever the fuck is next. Like,
Yeah.
what does that like middle space look like? Because I feel like whatever it is gonna be painful, but it's gotta
Oh,
be
for sure.
there has to be some kind of transitional space. And like, what does that feel like? What does that look like to you?
Well, I mean, as a Marxist, who like studies Marxism, I look at historical materialism and dialectical materialism, which is some shit that most people don't understand. But in short, in very short, and somebody gonna kill me for this, that's basically just saying that historical materialism is that society is built upon the class struggle, right? Class antagonisms, like the rich for the poor, the have versus have-nots, right? And throughout history, societies have changed not because people have ideas about change or necessarily right, but because these contradictions are so harsh that people are forced to make change actions. Like, for
Mm,
example, like during the time where there were feudal lords and shit, you know what I mean? And there were peasants class. The contradiction there was like, hey, we're doing all this work and y'all got all the power. How does
mm,
that's a contradiction? It don't even make sense. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
So over time, these contradictions fester as material conditions, meaning like people's lives get worse, and ultimately there becomes a revolution. I expect the same thing to happen there, because with that happened with feudalism to happen with capitalism. Obviously the contradictions are contradicting right now. You know what I mean? Like the living conditions are getting worse and worse and worse and worse. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, these contradictions will lead, in the worsening of material conditions, will lead to people taking power and putting power in the hands of the workers, the people. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
It, ultimately, democratic centralism through a socialist economic society where
mm.
people have the power. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, what that looks like between now and late, and between how we get there from now and later, there's a lot of worse material conditions. There's a lot of class consciousness that ultimately needs to be built. But ultimately, what it looks like is building a socialist society where workers are in power. You know what I mean? Where we don't have the rich telling us what to do, where the money, the exploitation of the workers is not, is not the main source of profit that goes up to the rich, where they decide where everything happens. That's what we ultimately have. The rich have decided. They have bought the politicians, they bought everyone, and they decide what happens to us. And like, for workers, we're trying to rise up and have our chance at that, and that will happen, through the contradictions of capital, and it's not guaranteed, which is why we express a revolutionary party, who is obviously educating people. We try to build class consciousness in people and help them understand things. But ultimately, it's our fate for revolution is already, I believe, is set. But
Mhm.
it's just like, what will that revolution ultimately turn into? Because this revolution that end up in more capitalism. You know what I mean? This
Well, yeah, I
revolution
mean,
that, yeah,
it
and
has.
more
Like, I think,
fascism or whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I think it has. Like, I think in
Yeah,
a lot of ways, like the feudal, like you said earlier, like
yeah,
that feudalistic system really never got really demolished. Like, it was just
yeah. It
a
just
new
transformed
purpose
into a new system. It just
into a new thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like slavery never really ended. They just said, oh, this is kind of inefficient. This is actually not what we want to do. We're just going to have everyone pay for their own shit, and then we'll just export it to prisons, make them criminals. That
Mhm.
way, the state can come in and handle certain things, and we can just like make our money and continue to export more people. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're right about that. 100%. Yeah,
You made me think of
yeah,
Severance and how
yeah.
and the ego. what usually creates a sort of spiritual awakening in people
Yeah.
is when your contradictions
Mhm.
within you like
Mm.
snap. Like you have an
Yeah.
idea of yourself and life tells you that's not who you are.
Yeah.
Like it spins out, it gets further and further apart until
Mhm.
finally it's like, because what you initially do is you have an idea of
Yeah.
yourself in your head that exists. Boom.
Yeah.
Like it's one of my favorite things, but like I explain it like a triangle. If you
Yeah.
think about your sort of awakening like a sort of upside down triangle, you start as like a sort of like a dot. This is who I am. Like it's all one
Yeah.
thing. You don't have any fucking sense of self. And then you kind of create these like the separation where you have an idea of yourself that's over here, and then you have an idea of your, and you're like, oh yeah, this is definitely me. This
Yeah.
person, this person, this person, and then at some point, life shows up, and it's like, actually, no, not that. And then you're
Yeah.
like, okay, that's fine, that's fine. I can jump over here and be that. And then you
Yeah.
ride that for a bit, and you're like, life's like, actually, that's also not you. And you're like, okay, well, fuck it, like that's cool. I can jump over here and be that. And
Yeah.
then eventually, like these things get so far apart and so contradictory,
Yeah.
like, I am my thoughts. Like if
Yeah.
I'm my thoughts, I'm fucked. Like I'm
Yeah.
absolutely fucked. If I'm my
Yeah.
emotions, I'm absolutely fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm my job, when my job isn't giving me the thing that I think it's supposed to give me, I'm a piece of shit. If I'm
Yeah.
my partner, if I'm all these things,
Yeah.
like I'm in a lot of trouble. And
Yeah.
usually when those contradictions become unbearable, it's
Yeah.
like there's a pop and we go,
Yeah.
it's usually a depression or something. But like on the other
Yeah.
side of that, it's like, oh shit, like you can't, because you physically cannot hold on to the contradiction of having an innie and an outie
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And there's usually like, it's never one or two, it's always three. Like the triangle
Yeah.
is the strongest fucking shape. There's
Yeah.
always going to be like another aspect of you, which is really just a merging of everything that you thought that you were and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything that you know that you aren't.
Yeah. 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 And I think what you're doing right now, you're giving a strong case for that. Is spirituality kind of Marxist? No, let me stop. Let me stop.
Like,
But it is
like,
built on a
yes.
construction. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But like it's
Yeah.
when we talk
Yeah.
about like a social, like I mean, if you look at an ashram,
Yeah.
like how ashrams work, they're called communes a lot of times. Like they're communes, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's everybody's like working for these
Yeah.
common goals and shit. And I do think a lot of Marxist and communist ideas, socialist ideas, are very in line with a lot of spiritual inevitabilities,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
just, I think right now we are experiencing severance
Yeah.
as a society. Like as
Mm.
on a societal scale, we're all like hitting, I think severance is a perfect mirror for the experience that we're all having, in that like we are
Yeah.
all like at war with our innies right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're all like experiencing this point where it's like there's about to, I mean, we're seeing the catastrophic pops everywhere
Yeah.
throughout our society right now.
Yeah, because people are ultimately trying to compartmentalize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that what we're saying is like that doesn't work. The
Not working.
contradictions are going to continue to contradict, despite your severance or compartmentalization, and things are going to pop. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And like just really quickly on the note, the common, I can just imagine some communist or Marxist watching this. Oh, Marxism is not in line with spirituality because it deals with only the material. But essentially what we're talking about when we say spiritual, we're dealing with the material things. Like the human consciousness is a material thing. You know what I mean? So I'm not arguing that it's like, because like obviously Marxism is usually atheist. You know what I'm saying? But like ultimately how we define our life through our own, selves and understanding is like a spiritual aspect. You know what I mean? There's a spiritual aspect to that. I mean, that ultimately is spiritualism. You know what I mean? It's like the human trying to define itself. So I just wanted to make that clear. But yeah, I agree 1,000. Go ahead.
I appreciate that, because like that's exactly correct. Like fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I love the groundedness of that, because I know when you say spiritual, motherfuckers get like, it gets weird.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're talking about God. You're about. But it's like what we're ultimately talking about is ourselves. You know what I mean? And the human psyche. Yeah, because all we have is ourselves, and we're connected. You know what I'm saying? But that's all I'm saying. Because there are some communists. I mean, my niggas for real. But like some of y'all be like, y'all niggas can't see the Marxism in art. Y'all can't see the Marxism in nothing. You know what I mean? Just like straight up scientific socialism. All right, cool. But like, I think we need to be able to bridge that gap for people to be able to walk over and be understand like, oh, okay, this is ultimately what it is. You know what I'm saying? I did want to ask you though, as we at war with our innies, bro, do you feel like the innies deserve rights? Which is crazy to say, but that's the conversation we have on the internet right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, Mark S is not a person. How dare he? How dare he choose Kelly over Gemma? You know what I'm saying? How dare he? You know what I'm saying? What are your thoughts on this?
I'm gonna tell you, man, out the gate, I was riding with Gemma. I was hot. I was watching that shit. I was like, no. I was screaming at my TV. I was like, nigga, how dare you?
Yeah.
I'm too married for that shit.
Yeah, I'm too married for. Hey, it's some real shit, nigga. That's my fucking wife.
Yo,
you know what I'm saying? That's my wife, nigga. Go get with your wife, bro. You know what I'm saying?
I was like, bro, what are you doing? Do they deserve rights, man? Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
No, I think that's so important because, like, obviously, the dealing with the emotions around that show, you know what I mean? I think it's ultimately trying to like pull at us, you know what I'm saying? Because we've seen Gemma and Mark together, you know what I'm saying? We know what that is, you know what I'm saying? And we've been pitched as, you know, Mark as the main comer. So I think the show, and this is why the show is so good, because it kind of pokes at that uncomfortableness that people feel at the idea of innies being people, you know what I'm saying? At innies being people. But from Mark's perspective, he's a person that exists, you know what I mean? And like, why wouldn't he choose Helly? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. Fuck. Okay. Because you just reminded me of something that like is that scene at the end of season 2.
Yeah.
When Mark
iconic scene, fucking outside the. Can we talk about the cinematography of that real quick? That shit was crazy, bro. Well, on one side, Helly, on one side, Gemma, bro. Like Mark S looking at both. Gemma screaming through the window, nigga. I was like, nigga, I'll be out of
broke
my TV.
My fucking heart. I literally was just like, but it's okay. So that experience for me, just from the contextualization of the ego, definitely feels like what happens when you look at when the ego sees its own destruction, it will always retreat because it can't imagine integration, right? So something that happens on your spiritual journey is that you go through, you know, you'll do a bunch of shit. You'll maybe, you know, you start meditating, you get to a place where you're feeling good, right? And like right when you're about to make a transcendent leap beyond kind of the limitations of your identity of yourself, ego will start throwing shit at you, right? Your brain will be like, well, like, hey, what do you mean ego death? Like if I die, then like, what are you talking about? How are you gonna do stuff? What do you mean if you don't identify with your emotions? If you don't identify with your emotions, it'll start just throwing a bunch of shit at you because it's holding on to itself. Because what your ego is essentially just thinking. And so something that is just thinking is literally can't think of itself outside of thinking. So to experience a space that's transcendent, that's beyond thought, that's beyond like that identification, doesn't make sense to it. In the same way that Mark S can't think about, like, he's like, he can't imagine what any kind of integration would even look like to him. And I think all of us are all sort of primed to run back into hell and R. We're all fucking hell and R constantly. Like we get to a place where we're like, I'm really crushing this shit, man. I'm really like, I'm really making progress, and then like you have a chance to really make a change in your life and go beyond your sort of limited programming, that fucking freeze thing. And we go, nah, I like the known situation. I don't think it's a mistake that Helly is our way in, that Lumon, that inside of that space was something that we became romantic about, because we become romantic about our senses of self. What do you mean? Like you tell somebody, you know, it's the scene in Avatar. It's the Avatar, and I think it's misunderstood by a lot of children. But when the guy tells Aang that to go beyond that chakra, he's got to let go of
Katara. Katara. I knew that's where you're going. I love this. Yeah, go ahead.
He tells you got to let go of Katara. A child's mind can't he can't think of letting go of Katara and still loving Katara at the same time. Which is really what it is, right? Really what letting go is letting go of the attachment, right? I let go of that being the thing that gives me life, that gives me my meaning.
Yeah.
And in doing so, he can actually more fully love Katara. But he sees that and he's like, that's like Jim at the other side of the joint. He's like, I don't know this bitch. Like, what you mean I gotta let go of Helly?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. And I think we all resonate deeply with that. And I don't think it's a mistake that we're like kind of rooting for Mark and Helly, regardless of how fatalistic it is, because we do it to ourselves constantly.
Yeah. But we want to have that escape in a sense. You know what I'm saying? We want to have that, you know, that opportunity to see where that goes. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I think you said it beautifully for sure. And I think that there are a lot of like ties to that like spiritual aspect in the way that we decide to choose to, you know, be with Heliar in a sense. You know what I'm saying? What do you say to people who say, like, on that was a spiritual level? What do you say to people who are like, who are maybe not looking at it from that perspective? To some people who say, fuck Mark. You know what I'm saying? Fuck Mark. You know what I'm saying? Because I think, like, in that conversation, like you said, you know, what does integration mean?
Fuck which
Mark S. Any Mark. Yeah. Everybody hates any Mark right now. And it's like, like you said, it's like, he's terrified. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, what reason does he have to trust Audi Mark? He's saying that, integration will happen. But it's like, what does that mean for me? I will be a tiny vessel of you in the infinite of all your emotions and all your memories and stuff like that. What does that even? What does the integration mean? What does it look like for us? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's a question that, you know, we're ultimately going to have to ponder into season 3 or even season 4 when they finally, you know, become integrated. If they become integrated, what that looks like as a full person. Because at that point, he will essentially love 2 people. You know what I mean? He will love Heliar, and he will also love, you know, Gemma. You know what I mean? And if Helena Egan gets, you know, integrated, she will be her true evil self. No, her outie self, who was kind of fucking evil, but also that who she really is at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think she's really kind of mad. Helena was really sad. She's such a sad character. Like, really
hella sad, bro.
Like, if anything, like, she wanted connection. Like, she goes into Severance to experience connection because she's so severed in her actual life.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy, which is poetic in a way. You know what I mean? She's the outie, but she feels severed. So she goes in to feel connected. You know what I'm saying? God damn, you were spitting with that one. That's fire. You know what I'm saying?
So sad though, bro. Like,
it is.
From a more grounded perspective, I would say I do. I'm gonna be real, bro. Like, I don't know how I feel about the innies having rights, bro. Like, I feel weird about. Like, I think as much as they do, as much as I think that should. Here it is.
Yeah,
I think they should have rights, and I think they should be treated fairly in the same way.
I just play that back in my head. I don't think any should have rights. That's crazy as fuck. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think I was just spitballing in my brain. Like, let's say, no, but you know what? And then I'm gonna take that back because I do think they should.
No, I get what you're saying. I just thought it was hilarious in the moment. You know what I mean? But I want to give room for you to be able to digest your thoughts at the same time. Yeah.
Fuck the innies though, for real. Clip that. I think the innies should have rights. You know what? I think the innies should be taken care of in the most normal, awesome, equitable thing. I think they should have full rights. They should have freedom to kind of do what the fuck they want to do. But at the same time, like, I don't know, man.
It's hard. It's a hard question. I think that's ultimately why it's so awkward for people. And that also what makes it so profound. Because when I look at it,
go ahead. I was gonna say the final point I was gonna make is just like, I think the question of whether or not any should have rights is contingent on whether outies have rights. And we've seen that Lumon is literally looms over literally everything in their fucking life. And so like, nobody is getting rights here. Like, as
they're getting fucked over.
As the outies have, they're still hamsters in a fucking wheel.
So
like, I don't know what that looks like equitably.
I don't know what it looks like equitably either, but I can certainly understand from Mark's position as, you know, someone who was created, you know, out of trauma by the outies, you know what I'm saying? And this is kind of like a bit of an oppressive dynamic, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to export my labor to you, you handle all this shit, right? And through this, they were born into this world with not shit, which is like an inherently traumatic experience, as we've discussed, you know what I'm saying? They were born into this, and they managed to carve out a life for themselves. And then as soon as it is no longer convenient for the Audi, they're saying, "Oh, hey man, you got to give it up. You got to give it up." And as Kelly R said, they gave us half a life, and they expected us not to fight for it. You know what I mean? In the middle of the road, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I do empathize with that understanding. You know what I'm saying? While I can also deal with the perspective is like, okay, this is a person that is also one person at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's also one person, but I also understand for how Mark in that moment made that decision for himself, because why would he? He has no reason to trust outside Mark. You know what I'm saying? He has no reason. This motherfucker didn't even get my girl's name right. You know what I'm saying? Like, why the fuck would I give up my life for you? And not only that, but all the lives of all the other Severance, from their perspective, is the only life they have. You know what I mean? It's the only life they wake. They don't even sleep. They just come to work every day. That's their entire life. You know what I mean? They don't even get to take part in that pleasure. You know what I mean? Do they eat lunch? I ain't even seen these motherfuckers eat lunch like that. You know what I'm saying? There's so much of their life that they don't get to live. You know what I'm saying? And
you really just reminded me of something that you said when you were talking about the book, and it's just like as far as it being half a life and not expecting not to fight for it. It's like even bullshit can lead to a revolution. Like that book is kind of bullshit, but like
in a way,
like even some bullshit, like half of something, like it's a let's say it's a half truth, like it's like it's not fully fleshed out. It's definitely from like an egoic, like capitalist bullshit perspective, but even that's enough to like give them enough to be like, you know what, nah. And I think they've gotten just enough leash down there for them to go, even though it's half a life, nah, this is worth fighting for.
Yeah, we gonna fight for this shit. So like I'm riding with any Mark. You know what I'm saying? I'm riding with Mark S. You know what I'm saying? Just because from that perspective, from the oppressive dynamic that is ultimately that. And it's like, you know, and not to say that initially I felt uncomfortable with the idea of Mark being a person. You know what I'm saying? Because I think the show was meant to do. You know what I'm saying? In the same way that, you know, dealing with oppressive systems when you don't have the privilege, or you have the privilege to not experience that, kind of feels like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, fuck, to most people initially, you know what I'm saying? Until you find out more and you learn more, and you're like, oh shit, I should actually be on the side of these people. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the juxtaposition that it's fighting for people to understand. It's like, hey, this is like a person in real life, bro, that is born out of oppressive systems. We know a lot of people like that. You know, Black people being one, and fighting for our rights should be based upon our self-determination, not the people who created the situation and are saying, this is how you get liberation. Nigga, first of all, fuck you. I don't trust you, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, you put it, like, imagine the ruling class trying to tell us, hey, after subjugation and slavery and, you know, manufacturing racism, we got the solutions for you. Don't worry, we gonna take care of you. Nigga.
Here's your newspaper.
Here's
your fucking 10 minutes with your wife. Here's your fucking what was the party? Waffle party. Here's your
crumbs, nigga, crumbs. You know what I'm saying? Like, little crumbs. Matter of fact, I'm gonna fight for my liberation my way. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's ultimately what, you know, they do at the end of season 2. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yo, you just got me so hyped, because like is the next season, like, is the integration thing bringing that revolutionary like mindset out of Lumon into the real world? Just like when you like read a book and you get some shit in you, and you start to enact that and bring that into your real life. It's like they got the revolution down here when they integrate, because like Mark, all these people outside on the outside are still enslaved. They're still under the fucking thumb. But they feel like they felt so oppressed that they'd rather cut themselves off from it and not think about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is that the thing that's going, you know what I'm saying?
I think it ultimately has to. You know what I'm saying? I think it has to. And I think in the effort to, especially if they get integration, these niggas ain't gonna just allow for another system. I mean, I think a part of that will probably be like initially like them, you know, kind of like experiencing themselves in different ways now, because they're immediately be integrated, but ultimately they're going to find out the same contradictions on the outside as they had on the inside. You know what I mean? And what's to stop them? I mean, ultimately Lumon is controlling inside and outside. You know what I'm saying? They're a capitalist, you know, society. You know, we can only assume, right? So yeah, I think that it has to. And I think that brings us to a great segue because we're talking about, oppressive systems, but that both for innies and outies, ultimately that they're going to have to, dismantle. But like, think about people who are not severed, who are also still oppressed at Lumon.
Mm-hmm.
Ring, ring, Harmony Cobell. Ring, ring, Milchek. You know what I'm saying? Milchek. And as we've seen, Milchek, this motherfucker goes to hella oppression.
Yo,
like, this is racism. This nigga is dealing with racism. Go ahead.
Let's pause for a second because your camera is really fuzzy right now.
Sorry. I'm just getting excited. I'm moving it around and shit.
Maybe it's my side. It looks really pixelated on my side, but it might just be my shit though.
Yeah, I think it's yours because on mine is cool.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, cool. But just also we are an hour and 20. So,
yeah, we can probably.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Milchek, and then we're going to talk about. I think that's pretty much it. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Because I think as Mindful Blerd, we got to talk about Milchek. You know what I'm saying?
Got to talk about Milchek.
Yeah, as Black people, we got to talk about what Milchek represents and what he went through. You know what I'm saying? So Milchek during the story, man, like he kind of goes through this arc of like experiencing racism. You know what I mean? Like, and I think this is probably not new to him working at Lumon, but like we get to see it, through the first time. Maybe not the first time, but maybe one of the major times is when he gets that gift from Lumon, the board, and they give him motherfucking Black Kier. Oh, can I just? So you already know I'm gonna go in. But what were your thoughts when you got this Black Kier? What were your thoughts? And you're like, how did you?
Yo, that scene with the woman who had the board in her ear.
Yeah.
That moment they had with each other. Yeah. Where it was just like
it's so black. It's so black, bro.
It's so black.
Yeah,
like it's just so subtle. Like I'm like, give them the Emmy just for that fucking scene, because like literally, it's just he's got to be like, what's up? And like it's literally he gave her a look, and in the back of that look was like Kevin Hart being like, help me, nigga, help.
literally, bro, like that, bro.
And she's just like, I can't. I can't. You know what this is, man. Like, that was the most intense, heartbreaking shit I've ever fucking seen in my life, dog.
No, it was absolutely terrible. And I think that's what makes it so good, is because it kind of hits. And this is how I know Ben Stiller ain't the only one in the right room, in the white room, in the writing room. Because to be able to write this in this way, bro, it's just like, it was so on the fucking nose, bro. It was so on the nose, and like it's exactly how we would feel in this this corporate world dealing with racism. You know what I mean? You kind of just give that look like, nigga, you see this? Nigga, I know the nigga in you sees this shit. Bro. You know what I'm saying? This is some crazy shit. And like you said, it's like almost like wanting to validate that, but she couldn't. You know what I'm saying? She couldn't validate that. Because why? Because we are code switching at work. We are a different person. You know what I'm saying? We must push ourselves down. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is like inherently like just fucking horrible feeling. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm glad they put it in there, but man, it was really uncomfortable to watch as a Black person who also kind of works in corporate America. You know what I mean? It's like, bro,
stop being so smart. Don't be too smart. Stop using big words.
Yes, and fuck Drummond. You know what I'm saying?
Bro,
fuck Drummond, bro.
I love how over the course of the first 2 seasons that scene with her was really one of the first times that he broke. I was talking about with another actor about it. Like he pretty much he was here the whole time, which I think is like so real about all of our experiences. A lot of times,
we're so good. We're so good at performing for whiteness, and then it's like this happens. It's like, I want to break out of this. You know what I'm saying? And like he even goes in. Moment. Yeah. Go ahead. I want to let you finish.
I didn't have anything else. I was just saying
okay. You said in that moment, yes. And my camera just moved, right? So he also goes later on to follow up with her, right, and to talk about it. Like, hey, I wanted to talk about this, and she still can't. Like you can tell, she just can't talk about it. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's whether she is integrated with the board, but it's just sad to see. You know what I'm saying? It just goes to show you how capitalism and racism are intertwined. You know what I'm saying? They're intertwined. You're going to get both. There is no version of racism, or there is no version of capitalism that is not racist. You know what I'm saying? And I think what this Black Kier was shown basically is like, hey, here's some token Blackness right for you. Like this shallow version of me understanding your Blackness is like, hey, here's a picture of Blackness in the same way that capitalism will try to prop up some black face of who also serves the ruling class and white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, here's a black person. You will like this, right? Because black. But it's like, it doesn't serve me. And it shows you how you have this shallow understanding of who I am. You'll never recognize my race in a way that benefits me. You'll only recognize it in a way that benefits you, which is why they have the biracial girl as a spokesperson for Lumon, to quiet any racial undertones, but also like, it is also to sell you back propaganda within the company. You know what I'm saying? Having the black Kier as a black face as representation kind of moment to kind of show you that like, you'll never really benefit from this system. We don't really fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? And this is like, we have a very shallow relationship with you that is extremely exploitative. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And as a black person living in America, living under capitalism, like I can fucking resonate with that, bro. And I hope that other people can also kind of see that message and start to unpack like, hey, this is what they do all the time. They just give us a black person, but they make them, serve the ruling class,
Mm-hmm. But like how satisfying was it when he starts letting his nuts hang at the end of the season?
Oh, yeah. And bro, it shows you how important blackness is to Milchek. So like, it goes in retrospect, it adds so much weight in like him letting his nuts hang, not only to Drummond, because he gave that motherfucker who was being racist as fuck, stop using big words, right? Which is how they try to mitigate black people. How we talk, how we act is not good enough, whatever the fuck. But also seeing this moment where he has the fucking HBCU marching band, bro, and this motherfucker is letting them shoulders pop. You know what I'm saying, bro? Letting them shoulders pop. We are immediately reminded. It's like how important blackness is to Milchek. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a black performance. Seeing them, those were pulled right out of like an HBCU performance. Those uniforms were hella similar. Like the whole thing was blackity black. You know what I'm saying? And for him to have that moment just shows you like how important how important his blackness is to him. So like it just adds so much more weight to the dynamic of like, him having to go back and forth with Drummond and him, him finally let his nuts hang. You know what I'm saying? And like saying, fuck this system. In its way, I can see Milchek starting to become kind of like, kind of disillusioned with the system and understanding like this is a deeply racist system. He's done the beginning path. He's not there all the way yet, but like I can definitely see that going for his arc in season 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. I'm curious to see what he does, and I'm deeply inspired by him, and I'm inspired by the characters in this show, and I just can't wait to see what the fuck. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited as well, and I think we'll wrap it up there for today. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
I mean, it's kind of hard to wrap up 2 full seasons in 1 hour and a half, right? But I feel like we did a pretty solid job. There's some things I could probably speak about again, but like if you have any comments, questions, leave them in the comment section. I will respond and edit or whatever the fuck in some way. Well, let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? This is a great show. This is peak television right now. You know what I'm saying? And I'll see you guys later. Any last words, David?
No, that's it, man. Thanks for rocking with us, y'all. Have a good one.
Yes, sir.
Bye.